Boom. And we are live with another episode of the Brownwater Banter Podcast Digital. My name is Jared Seymour.
My name is Joey Cates.
That's right. That's right. We have a great show for you lined up this evening. We have Heather Smith from Heather Smith Outdoors. She's going to be joining us virtually to talk about her digital content creator, avid fisherman. What are you laughing at? Did I already mess something up out the gate?
No, I screwed up. I screwed up already.
Okay, good deal. She's an avid fisherman. She's a content creator. She's got across all platforms. I was looking at the Facebook, the Instagram. We got a lot to talk about this evening. But before we do, we want to thank the sponsors of the show like we always do right out of the gate. Our good buddy, Dr. Robbie Williams over at Southern Magnolia Smiles. If you're looking for a great local dentist, he's over in Washington Avenue in Ocean Springs. Look him up on the socials at Southern Magnolia Smiles and book that appointment, man. Keep your mouth clean in 2023. Give him a call at 228-215-1202 and tell him that you heard about him on the Brownwater Banter podcast. Moving right along, Jesse Hill and his team over at Hill Tree Marketing. I just messaged Jesse, as a matter of fact, right before we went live because I'm having an issue doing something on my website, and he's one phone call away, and he's local. If you need someone to build a website for you and help you manage it, that local thing, man, I'm telling you right now, it's better than having to call some company and wait on the phone and go through a directory and all this other stuff. Hill Tree Marketing right here in the Mississippi Gulf Coast, he can build it for you and he can maintain it. Go over to hilltreemarketing.com, check out some of the brands that he's worked with locally, send him a message and tell him again that you heard about him on the Brownwater Banter podcast. Our good buddy Rocky Brooks over at Sea to Swamp, located on Gautier Van Cleve exit. Go over there. He's got all of your outdoor and apparel needs right there in his shop, man. Check him out on Facebook at it's Sea, the number 2 and Swamp. Send him a message. Tell him that you heard about him here. He's got baits, rods, reels, tackles, like I said, apparel. He's carrying the Brownwater Banter gear in there. He's got some of our hats. He's got our buddy Josh from Fishing in the South. He's got his gear over there as well. Go check him out. Rocky's also got Mississippi Coastal Angler, the Mississippi version and the Alabama version.
Yeah, Caitlin has the Alabama version.
Yeah, so go check them out and show them some support. Shop local when you can. And then last but not least, I was also on the phone with Tyler here just a minute ago talking about the transition that they're about to go through over at Taylor & Cox Law Firm. But Taylor & Cox is a sponsor of the show. If you're looking for an attorney, they've been practicing law over in Pascagoula for 30 years, excuse me. They specialize in criminal law, family law, and civil litigation defense. So if you find yourself in the need for some representation here locally, give them a call at 228-696-0111. And Tyler's going to be taking over his practice completely because Calvin, won the circuit court judge. So he's not allowed to practice law when you're practicing as a judge. So we'll probably have Tyler back on and talk about that transition, which is it's a good thing, a real good thing for them. And him as well, him taking over. And before we jump into it, we're going to mention for all you people watching, the Bay Rat Bash is coming up April the 1st. It's our hardhead catfish tournament that we've teamed up with the guys from Fishing the South. If you can't catch a catfish, like Joey said, you need to throw all your poles away. There's no excuses. First place catfish can take you home $700. So it's going to be a good time. It's going to be fun. The weigh-in's going to be at the Blind Tiger, just like we've done in the past with the Sheep's Head Showdown. I thank our sponsors real quick on this, just right out the gate too. South Mississippi Boat Show, Chasing Dot Charters, Charter Trash, Splash Mat, Saltwater Fanatics, Ocean Springs Marine Mart, the Bayou, Chandelier Brewing, In Too Deep. Joey, what's this? The Deepwater Mafia sponsoring.
Deepwater Mafia, yeah.
The Spearfish, which is its own separate thing. Yep. And then Coastal Angler Mississippi, the Blind Tiger, and I'm missing Joey. Who is this right here? With the anchor.
Gulf Coast Grains.
Gulf Coast Grains. Okay. That's
and you're missing Caddy Can, and you're missing 2 more. You got the whole flyer, but we'll get them over next time.
Yeah, and Caddy Can, we saw them at the boat show here this past weekend, and those guys are just really easy to get along with, easy to talk to, and instantly threw us some product to give away. And like we let them know, we've been using their product for like 2 or 3 years now and have 0 complaints about it. It really works. It's a trash can for your boat. So anyway. Let's bring Heather in and let's get to talking, man, about the outdoors. So, Heather, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
We're
Good,
great.
good.
We're great. We're great. We're glad to have you here this evening. We're just talking about the boat show. Was you tell us earlier that you've been to the Biloxi Boat Show before in the past, or that you just know Ronnie Daniels just because?
No, I just know. First of all, thanks for having me on. I appreciate
Sure.
that. Okay, so and no, I have not been to the Biloxi Boat Show, but I know Ronnie Daniels, so I have fished with Ronnie Daniels before. I'm friends with Bart Haddad. He owns the Dogwood. He also owns Sportsman's Lodge, which I stay at several times down in Venice. And I went over to go fish out of the Dogwood down there, and Ronnie came down, and I went out with Ronnie, and I believe at this I believe he still is the commissioner of fishing for charter fishing for the state of Mississippi. So we sat down and we were talking because actually we got into a good conversation about the leaders. So when a lot of people put on their leaders, some people use mono, some people use fluoro, and I noticed that he used mono. I also use mono when we tie off our leaders. So that is something that we kind of cracked a joke about because that's a big argument amongst a lot of anglers, right? So, but no, I haven't had the opportunity.
Believe you're not using fluoro.
No, yeah, right. And I was like,
fluoro
whatever.
snobs are going wild right now in the comments. I can't believe.
Yeah, I can only imagine, So, but it's old school. But I had a bunch of old school legendary fishermen that actually taught me, when I first got into bass fishing, and it sticks. And obviously, some of those are Hall of Famers, so they can't be wrong. You know what I mean? So that's how it is. But I saw your video that you guys had where you were at the Biloxi Boat Show, and I saw Ronnie, letting everybody in, and it cracked a smile on my face, so to see him still doing very, very well.
Yeah,
he goes above and beyond for the kids at the boat show, making sure that they get that experience, for them to kind of get them hooked with, stuff to deal with the outdoors, and rather than just the iPads and the video games. There's a time and a place for all that, but we don't want the kids to, to not have that experience. Like Joey was saying, throwing the cast nets, and they've got a little fake deal where they cast a pole, and then they go through all these little stations, and at the end they walk out with a gift bag, a fishing pole, and they always really enjoy it.
An R2D2 fishing pole this year. It was legit.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, nice. That's awesome. I firmly believe in lily pads over iPads. I mean, there is a place, like you said, for that. But the kids are not going to be able to experience the true beauty and majestic feeling of being in nature if we don't get them out there and submerge them in it, and just let electronics be the babysitters. I mean, I see that happening a lot, and I try, as I think you guys can see, I drag the littles with me everywhere.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We got Donnie Handler, what's up, man, in the comments, and then Tackle 22 Fishing. Thanks for the comment. We appreciate that as well. But yeah, so tell us what is Heather Smith Outdoors? Like, where do we start? Like, how did you get into this digital content creating, with the outdoor focus?
Well, actually, I'm a tournament. I started out tournament fishing. The story is, so I think it's funny. I guess I'm behind in times. People say content creator. I mean, I was just doing tournaments and posting videos and pictures of it, right? And then as you get a little bit more competitive and it levels up more, you can't post pictures of what your spots are, right? Or if, otherwise you can expect your partner is going to take your phone and throw it off the boat, right? Or never fish with you again. And getting into the outdoors, I just literally started taking pictures and videoing everything I was just doing, right? And and I didn't realize, slowly I started seeing all these people changing their stuff to content creator, and I'm like, this is just my life, like I don't think it's a, like people are like, it's a creator. I'm like, I just think it's a life, it's just my life. I don't know how, like, I don't understand. I guess it's still confusing to me, but so, my whole focus, I grew up on the saltwater. I grew up in Clear Lake. I was born actually in Raceland, Louisiana, down the south. My father was a captain. My father was a captain at a very young age. He was a master mariner, actually. And so, and I made a post the other day. I call him my Uncle Michael because it was my dad's best friend. My dad was very unique, probably one of the most brilliant individuals that's ever walked this earth, to be honest with you. although I'm a little biased, but that's my dad, and he always he was the safety. I mean, it was the captain coming out in him, right? So before I would get in the vehicle, he'd run around and, teach me how to do the safety check, and run around and check everything. But he also didn't believe, or he did not fully trust electronics or anything on the boat. So he would go into his office and he would chart the entire trip that he was going to take. And he took trips to Africa. He went down to South America, and he would do everything, celestial navigation and chart it prior to going. And so at nighttime growing,
he was old
yeah,
school.
it was actually, I did not appreciate it until I got older, like really grasp the magnitude of what he was doing. And it was such an esoteric profession, of what he was doing. But he would sit when I was little and he would just point to the stars and point out different constellations. And he would always remind me that the stars will always bring you home, and I didn't understand what he was trying to say until I got older. And then, so I'd always saltwater fish. We went out a lot, did a lot of inshore, did offshore with my dad and his family and, my mom's family. And then in 2018, my mother passed away. And actually my grandparents had passed away. So I lost one grandfather, then I lost a grandmother, then I lost a grandfather, then I lost my mother. And I had already lost my dad. So, everybody was gone. And I just had the littles, and I had to move up to Sam Rayburn from Kemah to take over the family business. And so my mom wanted her ashes spread on Sam Rayburn. And I didn't have a gravesite to go talk to, and I didn't really personally know a lot of people up here. I mean, I moved up to a town of 223, which 223 makes a great bullet, but
Absolutely.
when you come from like the fourth largest city in the country to, something very small like this, you feel very vulnerable and very alone, and it was kind of like hit the brakes and it flies right by you. That's how my whole reality felt, at that time. So I picked up a fishing rod and I went out to go visit my mom on the water. And eventually it became more about fishing and less about visiting mom. And it just evolved from there.
Well, that's a good story. I wasn't expecting
absolutely.
that. Yeah, that's pretty. I mean, adds a whole new layer to it. I mean, yeah, you're and for me, like the love of the Gulf of Mexico here, when I think about it, it's a lot of the same things. Like a lot of my good childhood memories have to do with going out to Horn Island,
Going
Ship
to the
Island,
island, fishing,
or just
laying in the
in
bottom
Gulf
of a
period.
skiff, something like that, shrimping.
Correct. And I think that's why we're so it's in your blood, people say, or whatever, but it's just like it's more than just being on the boat. I could go on the boat somewhere else and I'm still gonna have a great time, but there is a difference. Like I've been to Cabo San Lucas, Mexico fishing, and it's amazing down there. I mean, the water, the rockways when you go out of the bay there, and it's amazing, but it's just not the same. It's not the same
It's
as
not
down
as
here.
cool as being in Old Back Bay.
Yeah, it just ain't, and I'm sure there's people that don't understand. They're like, what an idiot, but that's just how it is. So I can relate to your story.
I've fished a lot of places myself, and so as you can see, I'll travel over, but no matter what, it's to me, it's complex in one feeling where I feel like if I step on a bass boat, here I'm close to my mom, right? If I step on a boat out on the Gulf, or on the saltwater, because my dad went everywhere, I'm with my dad, so where people, I don't know, maybe a psychiatrist would have a field day with me. He's like, "Oh, she's out there with her parents," or some making a joke. But in reality, I think Adam J, the rapper, really said it best. The ocean is my church. Like I find my peace and I just find home the minute that boat starts rocking. You're out on the water and everything is gone. And then when you lose the phone signal, it's just like almost just inner peace.
Absolutely. You don't have no email to check. You don't have anybody worried about you. It's just you in the water, really.
Right. Or trolls anymore.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about trolls. I'm sorry. My daughter's over here fishing on her
okay.
VR set. She keeps hitting the camera.
It's
okay. It's all good.
But so go ahead.
When you got into saltwater first and then you moved into bass fishing, is that what you're saying?
Yes, I had actually never bass fished before I moved up here to Rayburn, and so I started bass fishing. My first saltwater fish actually I ever caught was a sheep's head, right? So my aunt lives down in Homa, and her husband was a guide, so we went out there, and I caught a sheep's head, and I was so excited. And I can tell you how young I was because it was the day that I lost my very first tooth. So,
Nice.
I won't forget it. They had a
Two
camp
big
set out.
firsts in one day. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, it was really funny because they had a camp set out, and you know how they have the little camps out there, whatever. And I wanted to go swimming, and my aunt was like, "You can't swim." Well, I got a hold of a really big sheep's head, and I was struggling trying to get it in. And she's like, "I told you you couldn't go swimming," and I was yelling. I'm like, "I'm not trying to swim, I'm trying to get a fish." And so they ran over, and helped me. And so, and ever since then, and I just saw the pride on my dad's face. Like my dad's face was just beaming with so much pride, and I was hooked. Like from there it was just it was a good feeling. It's something you can't explain, something to me that any other sport doesn't give you. But and then life, I did it, but not to the extent of what I'm doing now, right? And then coming up here and getting involved in it and going out there every day, or I was going to the gym, or I'd go on the water, and I would go to a place here called the Stump. And again, small town, we don't have a lot of places, and the Stump is pretty iconic, right? You walk in, and any given day there's a Hall of Famer in there, or pro bass fishermen, or legends in the industry are just sitting around. And we would have breakfast, and Randy Dearman, and we would all sit at this one table. They call it table 13. And Bob Seeley, he knew my mom, and he has the largest amateur boat tournament in the world, right? He gave away $305,000 for one fish. And then he used to have the ESPN Redfish Cup, right, for 7 years. Well, Bob and I would sit there and visit, and Randy, and then I would tell them, and I didn't know to the extent who these people were. I didn't Google them. That's not why I was doing it. I was just going through grieving process, and I was just fishing, and then they would tell me, try this, or, go over to here and try this, and, or do this technique, different things. And I was like, okay, and I remember I walked out, and somebody was like, what did he tell you? And they were asking, and they were like, oh, okay. And I didn't know that they were trying to fish me to get information, and I was like, yeah, and then later they were like, don't tell anybody what we're telling you. I was like, okay. Yeah. So, but then eventually they were like, okay, kiddo, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it the right way. And they kind of took me under their wing, and then I got put through this like bass boot camp for extended numerous weeks. And then I entered a tournament with another former pro, and there was like 376 boats in that tournament, 300 and almost 400 boats in the tournament. It was a real big tournament, and I did pretty well. And hooks were in at 6, I think, like by 6:40, 6:36 or something like that, right in the very beginning of the tournament. I pulled up a 7-pounder, so I was like, what? And then of course my partner was like, shut up, right? So and then I started posting pictures, and people started noticing, and magazines wanted to do stories on me, and I just kept fishing tournaments and just kept going out every day, and just getting more involved. And I realized how much I loved it, and then just kept pushing myself to fish more and more places, and to level up myself, not trying to compete. I mean, it sounds ironic that you're in tournaments, but it wasn't because I was competing. I was just trying to become a better version of myself than I was yesterday, and the best way to do that is to be around people that are going to push you, and so I wanted that because I knew I had to perform better. It's like a psychosomatic, right? If you're around better, you do better, kind of like surround yourself with good people.
Surround yourself with better people. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and so
would you say that's when you took this Facebook, whatever we're going to call it, content creator to the next level? Is that one of the ones that started it?
No, I just kept doing it on my regular page. And that kept going on for, a couple of, another year. And then I had the producer from the Elite Fishing League reach out to me and ask me if I wanted to be the analyst on season 1 for the Elite Fishing League that was on Discovery. And so I said yes, and then I accepted that. And so I went and did that with the Pro Redfish League. And then with COVID hit, and then the owner of the magazine was like, Heather, you have to start, not just a Heather Smith. You need to start a Heather Smith Outdoors. Like, you have to do it. And he'd been telling me that, and I just kept pushing it off. And he's like, well, you can't do anything. I was like, but I can fish. The governor says we can fish here. But he's like, but there's a curfew. So, get it done. So that's actually when I started my page. And from there, people just wanted to see it. And I don't come home and watch a bunch of television shows. Like, I have all my digital streaming, I have my Discovery digital streaming and Disney and for the kids and stuff. But I really just submerged myself at, like, spoon plugging became my Bible, right? So, and I just started researching and watching everything I could on techniques and reading articles and lures and doing everything I could to just become a sponge, because as a female, coming into the industry, and not bass fishing or not doing this every single day since I was 5 years old, like a lot of these people, I took a lot of knocks for that. There were some people that were really, really welcoming. And then there were others that, were very condemning that I was getting attention for it, or that I was even doing what I was doing with it, and having successes in the way I was having successes. And but I didn't pay them any attention. I was doing it for the right reasons. I was doing it because I love it, and that's why I do it. So and I've never been one to really back down to a challenge, so I'm like, challenge accepted. You want to see me do it, then I'm
roll.
Yeah. I was like, okay, you want to see? Now you just, all you done was push the wrong button, because you tell me something like that.
Now I gotta do it the right way.
Yeah. I didn't want to say that, but that's truly how I am, So if you tell me no, I'm like, I'm gonna do it twice, and then actually video it just so you can see how well it's done.
Right.
Right.
But yeah, that's actually how that got into play. And after that, then Merrill Sport, the co-founder of the Pursuit channel, reached out to me because he had the Hunt channel, and he asked me if I wanted my own show, Heather Smith Outdoors, on the Hunt channel. And in the meantime, they had asked me if I wanted to be the editor for Florida Fisherman Magazine, and outdoor editor for Florida Fisherman Magazine. And I just kept fishing. I mean, I went and fished tournaments in Alabama, and on Lake Gunnersville, fished in Louisiana, fished them in I went to Cuba, caught marlin there. I wanted to catch a marlin in Cuba, and a lot of my friends were too scared to go over there. So right in that window when everybody could go. So I went and I chartered a boat by myself, and I went and caught a marlin out of Hemingway Marina, So.
And this is during COVID, when it was crazy restrictions going on, right?
No. That was actually before I started Heather Smith Outdoors page. I think it was 2019. I flew back on the 3rd because I didn't feel like it was appropriate to be there on July 4th. I remember when I booked the trip, I was like, no, I think we should come back on July 3rd. Yeah. So I remember looking at the calendar, and I was like, it's a personal thing. So I just came home on July 3rd. It was 2019. And then, I've been all the way up the Pacific coast and fished out of Ilwaco with a good friend of mine, Craig Brewer. He's on Netflix, or he was. They had the Netflix Battlefish. And he does a lot of the Bisbee. They fish, him and Renee fish the Bisbee, or he and Renee, that's his wife. And then I fished all the way up to Maine. I fished out of Florida a lot. I would have to say my favorite fishery for sure is Venice, as far as going out for saltwater.
Tuna,
yeah. Oh yeah, yellowfin.
Tuna, wahoo, swordfish. That's the Mecca for sure.
Oh, everything, and it's redfish capital. So. You got everything that you want right there. It's just an abundant species because it's got, abundant bait. It's just a very nutrient rich environment. And so you can knock down a PB for a bull red. Then you can get your slots, beautiful slots. And then by noon, you can take off and go out, and still do some offshore fishing. Then come back to the lodge and do it Cajun style that evening.
Yep. That's awesome. How did you get all these contacts? Like, were these people contacting you once you got so high up? Were you reaching out to them, or how does that work?
They reached out to me.
Really?
Everyone asked me that, and it wasn't even that. I don't think I had a lot of followers at the time. I mean, I didn't even have Heather Smith Outdoors. You know, when people were reaching out to me, I think they just liked and I don't know. I don't know why. I mean, I do. I mean, I kind of do, but I don't want to say it. You know, like but I think it's refreshing, right, for people to see a single mother out there with their kids doing it and doing it for the right reasons and trying to share that with people. I mean, I'm very vulnerable with what I do, and if I take on a new task that I've never done before, I was notorious for doing a lot of lives before, the and it so if I made a mistake, they watched me make mistakes.
You saw
I
it,
own
yeah.
my mistakes.
Right.
So I'm accountable for it. And, if I'm going to get a bird's nest or a professional overrun or whatever you want to call it,
I've
y'all
never
get
heard
up.
it called that.
A
Yeah, yeah.
professional overrun.
I've
Yeah. So,
never heard it called that.
I like that.
So if that's going to happen, then, it does happen. This isn't a moment. I had someone one time that has, and I'm not going to say who it is, but they're very well known in the industry, and they have had. I don't want to give anything away, but they were like, yeah, if you can't get stuff and you're trying to get content, take a saw blade and tie it on, and it'll bow up the rod, And I looked and I was like, that's not going to happen, because other people get skunked. Like, I just didn't want to. I'm not going to do that,
So you faking the funk. You don't want to fake the funk. You want it
No,
real.
I'm not gonna fake it. Like, like if I get just grilled, you know what I mean? If I screw up, I deserve to be scrutinized over it. But at the same time, the MLF is here all the time, and I've fished against some really, really, really good anglers, some of the best anglers I know, period, come out here and fish the tournaments on Rayburn, right? And so and the truth is, everybody gets skunked, So,
Yeah, I mean, we're all human. There's not a
right.
person on the face of the earth that goes fishing every day and catches fish. Nobody.
Except for
Not a
Josh
single-
Jones. I don't know what cartel of the other side he signed a deal with, but I want to know if they're hiring, because that guy is amazing. I'm joking, by the way, but
Right.
he's that guy's phenomenal. I don't know anybody that's good, that is that good with electronics, to be honest with you. So
That's
he
tough.
yeah, he's good.
So
Right.
you had people reaching out to you and kind of stepped out there, and I heard you say you were an editor of something, right? You were editing one of the magazines.
Outdoor editor for Florida Fisherman Magazine.
Still are, right? Correct?
I still am. Yeah, I still am.
Yeah.
I do stuff with them. And Robert is the owner. When I first talked to Robert, he was, we had the same ideals. The same thing was to promote women in the industry, and men as well. That it's a time for women and children to learn, and that's a big proponent for me. And to not be shamed for someone that when they didn't know something, to encourage them. There's a lot of, you'll see two different anglers in this industry, right? And you see it all the time. The ones that know everything, right? And they're a little uppity to people that are trying to learn, or they laugh, or the people that are the really good ones, because the really good ones don't laugh. The really good ones really want other people to learn.
Yeah.
And they
you how to
share
do
that.
it. Right.
Yeah. And they are excited to see new people come into the industry because they're not threatened. And that's the way I feel about it. And, and I'll say that because if someone you never see a winner in Cass King, actually, I just saw one of the guys from Cass King post an audio on his Instagram, and I absolutely loved it, but it had a curse word in it, so I couldn't use it on my thing for the audio. But it said, you never see a winner talking bad about other winners. You never see a winner talking bad about losers. Only losers talk about other people badly. So I love that. I love that, because that's what this industry needs. This industry needs less cynicism and more encouragement, just like a lot less bullying and a lot more encouragement.
Especially from the gender, I guess, because I'm a girl dad. I have two girls, So for me, getting my daughters into fishing, I love fishing, grew up fishing, throw cast nets all the time. That was number one. Like, that's the only thing I wanted to do. I would wish somebody would say, my son can outfish your daughter, because I'd be like, let's see it. You know what I'm saying? Let's see if you can throw a cast net better than her, because I told her I know what she can do. So especially for little girls, they need that. I think they need that confidence to in everything in life. And it starts really young too.
Well, I think the best feeling for me as a parent, where I realized that I was, you always wonder. I think you guys you're both girl mom or girl dad,
No,
should I say?
Jared's got boys, I got girls.
Yeah, I got two
even
boys.
if it doesn't matter as a parent. Okay, again, a little bit of vulnerability here. We always wonder, no matter how well we're doing or we think we're doing, you always wonder, am I doing enough, right? Or am I doing this the right way? Because there's no book, right? And so the city of Lamarck had asked me to come down and be a guest teacher for, so there's like 400 kids, I think, something like that, one day, and to teach them how to fish. And it was a little tournament, right? So I don't know. I know you obviously have done the cast net thing with the children. Have you ever had, 300 plus something kids on a bank, right, trying to fish that have never thrown rods, right? And being behind them, it's like a bad day in Bosnia. Okay. So you got all these hooks flying, and I'm like doing a military crawl, trying not to lose an eye. And most of these kids that turned out for this event were between the ages of 11 to 16. And my daughters were there, and my youngest, they definitely wanted to still be in the tournament at the end. Well, I had went around helping all these children. And then I realized I think it was like 10 minutes to noon that they had not got to compete in the tournament yet, because I've been helping everyone. And so I said, oh no, quick. And so I had already spotted a spot, because there was like a little oyster bed underneath. I could tell where the current, like I knew where we were going to go, Right. So literally flew over to this other side. Her second cast, she caught this amazing redfish. I was like running back, holding the redfish in my hand, trying to get there. I ended up getting scaled. It was like super bad, but I threw it down just in time. And she came in fourth, and she was 8 years old with all those boys out of like, I think it was 300 and something, it was closer to higher end. It was over 350 for sure. But that was those moments where you kind of smile and you're like, you're doing something right,
Yeah, it's always cool. I mean, you could catch you can catch a redfish all day long, win a tournament, it's money, whatever. You wake up the next day, but if your daughter or son or somebody like that wins it, I mean, you're walking around chest out, you know what I'm saying? You're the cock of the walk, you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, no, it's the best feeling. And when all this started happening, and in the beginning, and I was doing the tournaments here on Rayburn, and before it was before I did the Elite Fishing League. So every morning I would have my cup of coffee in the morning, and the little, okay, so she would get up and she would take a bar stool, and she would go outside, because my house is up here in Beam. And so she would go outside on the deck, and everybody sees the pictures of the porch, right? I always put pictures up of the porch, right?
Right.
And she would sit on the bar stool, and she would practice. She would take a rod and a bait caster, and she was practicing pitching and flipping, because the way that the roof pitch comes off like this, you can't cast. So she would have to practice her pitching and flipping. Awesome. And she would do that every morning. And this went on for 2 months. And there was a picture where Lila grabs the camera. She's like, Mom, you have to come here. And so she videos it, and I go outside, and she did it, and it was perfect. And you hear Lila, and that's the big little, she's like, don't cry, Mom. And I'm all, you just start bawling because you're so proud of them. Yeah.
But I'll tell you this example, because at the boat show, throwing a cast net, and I'll give you people ask, because I throw a cast net all the time. They're like, how did you learn how to throw a cast net? My grandfather, when we were little, he would cut the weights off a cast net and put a cork on it. And me and him and my brother would sit in our living room and cut out fish out of paper and throw the cast net in the living room, because it had corks on it. It wasn't going to hurt anything. And we would just make a game out of it over and over and over. We would just throw the cast net all the time. And I was like, go home tonight, get your daddy to cut the corks off all your lines and cut the weights off and put corks on it. You can throw it anywhere, any day. And that's how we learned to throw a cast net.
Oh, that's really, you must have had a really big living room.
Well, my grandpa did. We did.
So we were actually throwing the cast net this last week in the front yard, and it has to be, it needs to be raked for leaves. And I was like, hey guys, keep doing it because it works. Because when the weights hit it and then you pull it, it was actually like raking, you know. So I was like, oh no, this is a fun adventure. And Lila was like, I know what you're doing. You know?
Move 2 feet this way.
Yeah, you go over here. It's looking a little bare over there, you know. So anything's fun. I'm not saying I'm Mary Poppins, but if that woman can make cleaning a nursery fun, I mean, if as long as you have a little bit of imagination and get the kids involved, you know, anything can. Before you know it, a lancetfish could be a dragon. You know, I mean, you could turn it into anything. So I think it's important for all of us to focus on the children and focus on the next generation, because too much time, like I said, is I think put on electronics, and this is a feeling that, you know, Roblox isn't going to give anybody.
Correct.
No,
yeah,
the outdoors is definitely something special for sure. How did you how did you get the digital side of it though? How did you, it sounded like everybody was kind of telling you, hey, like you got to get the you know, the Heather Smith outdoors rolling. Were you reluctant to make it, to do that? And then how did you get it going?
Yeah, I mean, I was, because I did it for myself, you know, I mean, I was just posting what I was putting up there, but part of me kind of was like, you know, I kind of want to keep a little bit of some stuff personal, you know, like, but
Right.
then, and then, you know, I had sponsors that were calling me and wanting to sponsor me. And so, you know, all this other stuff was happening, and I was like, okay, so if I didn't realize, you know, that it was going to go into a full-time, you know, career for me, you know, fishing at that point. And, but that's what happened. It's just, you know, life is what happens when you're planning it. And so, I just kept posting what I was doing. And literally, you know, when you have sponsors, you have to, part of the contracts now is that you have to put stuff on social media. And
you gotta
so
do what you gotta do. Yeah.
right. So I was like, okay. And then more sponsors came out, and then, you know, then it's like, okay, you have to fish, you know, and so it's not that you didn't want to, you know, you're doing it, but then it's a career, you know, before you know it, you're literally fishing, and that's your career. And that's literally, it happened on its own. It was self-evolved. There was no goal there. It just happened on its own. It was completely organic. And the Heather Smith outdoors taking off, it just did it by itself. I wish I could, you know, tell everybody, you know, do this and then this will happen. I mean, I can tell you, you know, I'm going to charge you. No, I'm just kidding. I'll send you an invoice after this one, lady.
Absolutely.
But no, be yourself, be authentic, you know, crack jokes. You know, a lot of people interact with your people that are supporting you. There's people that have been down for me since day one, that believed in me when I didn't even know that that's really what I was doing, you know, like not like as in I didn't know that this was the career I was having. They already knew. A lot of them already told me that they knew that this was going to be my career. And I didn't know that this was going to be my career. I just thought that I was going to be fishing tournaments and, you know, doing what I love and trying to be a mom. I didn't know that fishing tournaments, doing what I love and being a mom was going to be paying my bills, and, you know, and I was going to be who I am, or what it is. Not that I'm definitely no, you know, no Swindle or Van Dam or, you know, anything like that. I'm just me, you know, and I'm just being authentic about the fact that I love it, and I make mistakes, and I have a dang good time doing it, and I get to involve my kids in it. And in between all of the other stuff, you know, I get to go around and take on the adventures that, you know, I want my kids to share in and to be able to have. And a good friend of mine, Jeff Larson, he's a guy down in Port O'Connor, and he was a redfish pro for a long time. And he and I do a lot of stuff together. And he was laughing one day. We were talking, it was actually about a couple months ago. And he goes, can you imagine what it's going to be like when those girls start dating, you know? And I'm like, he's like, they've already done everything. No boy can bring anything to the plate that they haven't already done, you know? And I said, well, when that happens, the only one that gets to date him is the first one that can beat me fishing, you know? So
that's a good
that's
bar
pretty tough.
Yeah. Well, my fishing partner, Rowdy Slaughter, he actually had a really good one. He raised daughters. He had Bailey, and Bailey's an amazing angler herself. But he had a rule that if somebody wanted to date his daughter, the first 5 dates had to be done with the family. So instead of being able to go out, that they had to come and hang out with the family. So it was something serious, and they had to really be committed to it if they really wanted to date their daughter.
Yeah.
Mine's if you can outrun a 9mm. That's gonna be my first date.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, speaking of meeting people, we were supposed to meet up in Gulf Shores or Orange Beach.
Correct.
Yeah, and then signals got crossed and stuff like that. We were both family affairs, which it should be. But you were hanging out with Ben.
Yeah, Ben.
Yeah,
We went out with Ben.
Yeah.
Hey, do me a favor. Sorry, hold on real quick. They said you already know Mom and all the time. Guys, hand me the extension cord and hand me my charger. Lila, please bring me that.
We're about to die.
Yeah, we're going down like a fat man on a seesaw.
Yeah.
You know, so it's all together.
We want to get a fishing story from you, so tell us that one because that'll relate close to home because everybody knows Ben's been on a show. So Ben, so tell us that story when you get that electricity hooked up.
Okay, so we went out with them, and we were actually looking for some wahoo, and so we used.
There's Ben right there in the comments.
Yeah.
Hey Ben, what's up? And so we went out with Ben. We were out with Third Coast Thunder, fishing team and charters. And Chris is the owner, Ben's the captain. And we went out and we went to Beer Can. I think people always call that, sometimes they're fishing the ghetto. I've heard some people say that too right before. We went out there, and then we went out to another one with some the little twins with a platform that goes across the top too. And we looked back because we were pushing out, right? You know, after we were pitching out, and then we pushed out through the wash. And we looked back, and this giant wahoo, I'm talking a giant wahoo, came up about 7 feet out of the water, or maybe 8 feet. And I was like, holy smokes.
And that's what y'all were going for, right? Y'all were trying to get a wahoo?
Right. So we had a Purple Haze Zacatec lure, large, on the back, right? And so we started trolling, and I was sure that we had hooked up, you know, with that monstrous wahoo. And lo and behold, it was a white marlin. It was a beautiful, healthy, gorgeous white marlin. It was a first marlin for a couple of people on the boat. And in true tradition, they had to jump off the boat, you know, and
Absolutely.
we actually brought the marlin on, you know, took pictures, and then great healthy release of the marlin very quickly to take care of the animal or the fish. And then got some good footage of the release of it. And it was a great time. It really was. Yeah.
That's awesome. So
yeah,
tell us your craziest story. So you've been in a lot of charters and a lot of crazy places, right? With a lot of crazy people. What's the craziest thing you've ever seen on a charter?
On a charter? I was going to say, if you want crazy stories, I got some crazy stories.
Just on your trip, on the one that you've been fishing on, what's the craziest thing you've ever seen?
Well, I almost got shot in Cuba, but that was a different story. You know, so that was for taking a selfie. You can't take selfie. They thought I was taking a picture of a building. That was nuts. But yeah, I got in a lot of trouble, you know. So not trouble. I got to be very careful with my words. They came over and went through my phone to make sure that I wasn't taking pictures. I was actually holding the camera like this, and they thought I was taking pictures of a building, you know. And that was, I think there was a lot of. It's right before they shut down the travel.
Yeah, they thought you were a spy.
I'm not going to say that. Yeah, so they definitely, but everything was good in the end. So, and I encourage everybody to go to Cuba. So I don't want it to sound bad at all. So
what year was that you went?
2019. I was literally one of I was on the very end of right before they shut it down.
That was a bucket list thing for me. I wanted to go, and obviously I didn't make it during that small window where they were letting people travel down there. But I've always like Googled pictures of it and been fascinated with like how all the cars are down there are old cars because they can't.
They're old school, yeah.
Yeah, well, they can't import automobiles because of all the sanctions that they've had on them. And I remember seeing a book that someone wrote that went down there, like of all the creative ways that they come up with to fix things because they can't get it. Like if a washing machine breaks, they can't get parts. So someone wrote a whole book about how they've just figured out ways to manufacture things that like MacGyver things to make it work.
Cuban life hacks. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Cuban life hacks. So yes, that is accurate. But I think I don't want to be misspoken here, but I've kind of tried to keep up with it, and I'm hoping that they lean back toward allowing people to go back, because I would be one of the first people to stand in line to go back. It was phenomenal, and it cost me $180 American to charter my own boat and to go out and get a marlin, and it was truly one of the best experiences of my life. The country is phenomenally gorgeous. The people are so kind. There's so much history there, and the water is just so pristine because it's not overfished, you know. So
Right.
the locals there, unless they're commercial fishermen or you know, a charter, they're not allowed to go out in boats, you know, at all. Right. You know, they're not allowed to be in boats because of the restrictions there.
Right.
When you go to leave in a charter, you have to check in with like a little military checkpoint that they have, you know, set up.
Wow.
And so, and I say a little military checkbook, it's some uniformed soldiers, you know, at the end of the Hemingway Marina. But you take a look, which I guess technically is a military checkpoint, right? You know, but it's so tiny, you're like, what? And the water in the marina is so pristine. When you look down, you know, you think you're looking down maybe 6 foot, and it's really like 70 foot. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
And it falls off like quick, right?
Yo, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We were looking at Havana while I was literally looking at Havana while I was reeling in a marlin, and it was one of the best experiences of my life. And if you get a chance to go, seize that moment, because it's beautiful. One of my craziest ones. Okay, so I got some good ones. You know, Tanya, my outdoor bestie, partner in crime, you know, Miss Louisiana. We do a lot of cool stuff together. Now, I know when we were I do neutral rat hunting. You know, we do that from an airboat, right?
Yeah, I contacted the guys down there. We almost went and set up for that tournament, because it was 3 years ago when they started the neutral rat tournament, or
the rodeo.
5 years? Yeah, rodeo. Yeah.
I don't know when it started, but I know it's because Robbie Carter's a good buddy of mine that puts on a lot of stuff. I think you guys are working with Robbie now, right?
Robbie's fixing to come on the show in about 2 weeks. So he does.
Yeah,
all the
I love
Billcrest
Robbie.
Classic.
And he's legacy. I mean, his you know, they have a huge legacy that they've done in the industry. And so Robbie and I and Tanya were supposed to go. And it's the 24th, I think 25th, and I'm fishing actually a tournament in Rayburn here instead, and so I can't make it, but this year. But Tanya and I went out, and we go out with Cajun hookers. I love Cody, love Cody. And we went out there and shot some. We were shooting Nutra, and we harvested one and put her on the deck, and her stomach was moving. So we cut her open, and the video is on my Facebook page. Okay. So we cut her open, harvested the babies out, gave them CPR. 2 of them got rehomed, and somebody has them for a pet right now. And then I cooked them all, and we ate her that night. So
the circle of life.
Yeah, no. So and it's on video, you know. So and again, you know, there's no Hollywood there, you know. I'm like, I don't need any blade, you know.
Yeah.
So that happened. Another one, I was fishing with a good buddy of mine.
How does neutral rat taste?
I was thinking the same
thing. What do you compare neutral rat to?
It's phenomenal if you cook it right. It really is. I mean,
so what do you do? Fry it, grill it? What do you do with it?
No, I slow cooked it with a lot of red wine vinegar and some garlic, minced garlic. Put some Worcestershire in there and some Southern Boys Outdoor seasoning.
Like a stew, kind
of like almost like braising it, you know.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and then I put it in there I baked it at 200 for 9 hours. You know, it was like 225, 9 hours. So it came out almost like a pulled pork. It was so tender. And then we had Nutri-Rat tacos. You know, I mean, it was really, really, really good. So, it was. See, Angie saw the video. When we did it, it was really good. Another time I was out fishing for lingcod, and I was out with Craig, and we were out at El Waco, and we pulled up the lingcod. And if you ever see the front of them, it reminds me, you know, the big yellowmouths, how they have the little toothy things. Well, just imagine like a little more vampire teeth, right, for the lingcod. Yeah. And I had just put the camera down, and all of a sudden this lingcod just bites into his knee and is just hanging there, right? And I was like, why'd I put the camera down? And he's like, what about my knee? I'm like, oh yeah, let me go. You know, So and then that was funny. So we laughed about it because later that evening, and the littles were obviously there too, and the littles are like, oh gosh, they're kind of running around like little Indians, and so the little things that we get into all the time are kind of funny, so I mean, little things like that, obviously I think we've all had issues when we pulled up what we thought was the biggest PB and it was like a log, and
Yeah. A
taking
boot.
out a couple of, taking out a couple screens with a chatterbait before. And let me see. I was up in Maine and we were bluefin tuna fishing. And I was hanging over the side of the boat like we normally do in the Gulf. I was kind of like sit on the gunnel, on the
Right.
side.
Foot on the side. Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of straddle it like a
Right.
workhorse,
Right.
so. Well, not far from the boat, maybe 30 feet from the boat, this huge great white, I mean, massive great white, breaches the water and flips, right? And I didn't know that I could move that fast. But within seconds, I was cowered down in the middle of the boat, just shaking like a weather vane in a
I bet
tornado.
that leg wasn't hanging off anymore after that.
Ever, like ever. I was even remiss, like when you have to pull down like this. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
We
it was
went.
just.
No, I was gonna say we went on a charter in Cabo, right? And
Mhm.
and we were coming in. We all jumped off the boat as the boat's coming in to swim. Swam around, had been drinking all day, had fun. When we get back, well, it was like months later. One of the guys was with sends like this link and shows where the great whites patrol, and it was not far from where we were at. And I just remember thinking like, oh my God, I will never do that again. Like that wouldn't that have been terrible to go
You'd
down
have been
like
a tasty treat.
yeah, and getting eaten by a great white shark
Yeah.
because you were
Or
drunk
you
on a
could come
charter
back and
boat.
work at IHOP. I mean, there's always a positive spin that you could put on everything, like
Correct.
no,
Terrible,
but
terrible.
so
I
here's
couldn't imagine
to
what you
swimming.
felt like seeing it breach the water while your leg was in
No,
there.
I would have
That's
peed on
no way.
myself. I would have peed on
Yeah, if
myself.
anyone saw any yellow in the video, that was not CGI. So
Yeah.
it was definitely something enough that makes your soul want to leave the body. So
Absolutely.
there was it was an experience like no other. I think obviously going out, some of the coolest things I've seen, in Jamaica, is getting to fish out there with a bioluminescence.
Oh yeah,
You get to see
jellyfish
that.
stuff like that. Yeah,
Yeah, they're little plankton, almost like microscopic
yeah.
organisms,
They turn
and
the
so when
water
they get,
green and blue. Yeah,
yeah. So that was actually really neat. So at one point, I kind of, the inner kid took over. I just jumped in the water, like I didn't even think about I was fishing anymore because we are at nighttime, and I started doing angels in the water, like things like that. That was a very neat experience. I have to say, you know. There's always crazy stuff. I'm probably going to hang up with you guys and then remember some of the nuts things because you never know what's going to happen. I mean, you never do. Tanny and
absolutely.
I always have a tendency to do the craziest, like I'll go frogging and then all of a sudden before you know it, I'm a little competitive, if you can't tell. So I got a frog and I thought it was going to come off. So I decided to go off the boat. Like it was that important that I don't lose the frog, and there was another guy. He's very Southern. He's like, I don't think I have ever seen a woman go off the front of the boat for a frog.
You're like, hey, they taste good, and I'm competitive, so
You
that's
ever
two
taste
things
them
right there.
legs?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was like, you're gonna like it better when we cook them up later. So,
So that's your partner in crime, right? That's the one that fishes with you all the time.
yeah, that's Tanya
Yeah.
Crow. Yeah, she was a cheerleader for the Saints. She was a head cheerleader for the Saints, and then she was also the Miss Louisiana. But everybody sees that, and it's funny when we're together. And I'm like, she is a Southern outdoors girl. She was raised on a farm. She's a dairy farm girl. And Amy, her family has like 400 cows. They sell the milk to Borden. And then when we went frogging one night, actually down there, we went and we got the frogs. She and I skinned all the frogs together. We caught them all by hand, and that's what we're doing it. We do it on live, so everybody sees that we are doing it. No one's doing it for us, And then we got buttermilk that actually came from from her farm. The milk came from her farm and it went to Borden, and then we got the Borden buttermilk. So it was like a circle of life. And then we cooked the frogs that evening, and then we went out and picked some blackberries on the farm, and we made a cobbler. And her dad, Daddy Crow, he came over and he's like, "Hey, do you think you have enough for?" Because I let him taste it. When I first did the first ones, we all cooked them together, she and I. And and he said,
they're banging on the door right now.
yeah, and so that's okay. And so she gets so mad if she doesn't get frog's legs. She's so.
They are
Yeah.
good. That's one I have had, and they really are good.
Delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Talbert had tried one, and Tanya was like, "Well, we don't really have a lot." And he goes, "Too late. I've already invited everybody." So like all his friends and the friends and family were coming in, and everybody was sitting around in true Cajun style. We're all eating the frog's legs that Tanya and I had went out and caught the night before, and cobbler that we picked the blackberries for. So that was fun. That was actually really fun.
Resourceful, y'all living off the land.
Yeah.
I think they like to play jokes on me too. We went out. We have another friend of ours, Eric Dumas, who is, they call him the Gator Man. He's out of Slidell, and so he's a nuisance control guy. And so the rules for when you're going out for a nuisance gator are a little different than someone that goes out and normally traps a gator, right? And you have to be a licensed. Yeah. So you have to be a licensed nuisance person. So we would go and help him, right? Whenever it was a nuisance call, which, at that point, these giant gators were eating people's pets, and it were threatening, eating humans, right? When they become so large, they become man eaters.
You got to take them out.
Yeah, you do. And so we had hooked up to one, and I was holding on to it because you throw, and the treble hook goes underneath the front of it because you get on the side, and then the other one gets it on the other side. I think Mississippi, you guys are allowed to do.
Yeah, we do that. We do it all the time. Yeah, you just gotta you basically gaff them. You just jig it till you stick them into the dang back of the leg.
And then when they're really big, you have to have two people do it. So you get a one on one leg, one on the other, and then you alternate like you would like if you're offshore fishing, right? Go down and then you bring it in, kind of like do. Well,
pull them up.
Yeah, well, we're in this little John boat, right? And this gator wasn't not having it. And so we went gator skiing for a little while. It took off, and I was just holding on. And it looked like something out of a cartoon, like I was like, wee, like holding on, and this gator is just propelling us, And then we put it in there, and it's pitch black, and he still had this, calls for these tickets, this other one that we had to get, and it was just massive. And it's dark, really dark. And all I see is the spotlight going around like this. And out of the corner of my eye, this 10-6 gator is moving right behind me, and in the boat with us, right? And I'm on the very front, perched.
Yeah.
And they are cracking up laughing because it is the movements that still happen, after it's dead. Yeah. Well, I'm like, what? Like my soul left my body because I think that we've got a zombie gator in the boat. And I was like, he's like, he's just napping. I'm like, what kind of nap? Like 20 minutes or for eternity,
Well, if it's gonna nap, I want the tail. I don't want the head. Yeah. Let me get the tail.
Yeah, sever it, So we have some really fun adventures.
Has doing it professionally now, like for a living, like you mentioned, has it changed anything? Does it change the dynamic, the soul cleansing aspect of it?
Sometimes. So it's funny you should say that. It puts a pressure on you, right? In one aspect, because the kids still have to have braces. The kids, want all this other stuff. So there's that pressure. But I was just talking to my partner the other day, and who was I? There was somebody else I was talking to. I was talking to Scott Burns yesterday because he's doing a NET tournament, no electronics tournament, right? He wants to bring an old school tournament back. And I said, and he's been in the pro circuit. He's fished forever. And he was calling me and asking me what I thought about the idea, of the tournament. I said, yeah, it's great. I said, honestly, Scott, I said, I don't care. I said, I realized because I fished a tournament 2 weeks ago, and it doesn't matter if it's your 20th or 50th or, your first tournament. I wake up with so many butterflies in my stomach and as giddy as possible because it's just like a kid on Christmas. And so
it sucks because like you want to get sleep because you got to wake up early, but you can't sleep. You can't sleep at all. Like if I'm going to work, it's like, and I don't want to wake up in the morning. If I'm going fishing or hunting, 4:30, I'm up, packing my stuff, getting a shower, ready to go. If you could
changing, I go, no, I need to change my line again. You just changed it already. You know, we're like, no, not that color.
Have that much energy to go to work, imagine how much fun work would be.
Well, that's why it's work, right? For me,
yeah.
So,
correct.
But it is now the soul cleansing aspect. I think I see some of the most beautiful places, you know, and to me, and I've been not everywhere, but I go a lot of places, you know, fishing. I just fished a tournament in St. Croix, you know, this last October. And one of my teammates is a captain for Wicked Tuna, and his girlfriend, Amy Perkins, amazing. You guys should follow her, by the way. She is phenomenal. She's a former Marine, and she also collects megalodon teeth, right? So we were out there fishing this tournament, and we were with OTC charters. Chris Nelson, who's won the Windsor Wahoo Championship, he's awesome too. My teammates, and we all stopped at one point in the tournament because we look up and there's rainbows like all around us and the scenery. So
breathtaking. Yeah.
It was real rough. But you look up and that right there reminds you how beautiful the world is around you. And I'm so lucky that that's my window, you know, for my cubicle.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I am glad to hear you say though that not glad, but I mean, that's the honesty that it does kind of probably put a pressure on you. I know it changes a little bit of things, like even just for Joey and I, if we go somewhere whether it's like the boat show or something like that, and you have to get the camera, you kind of feel obligated is not the right word, but you're not passively consuming, you're actively doing stuff when you're fishing or whatever. So it is a different dynamic.
Yeah.
There is a lot of pressure with that, and a lot of pressure too in the aspect of like, you know, what people don't understand is I've got to take pictures and I've got to do video, and I don't get a lot of pictures and videos of myself anymore. I don't really like to. It's fun, ironically enough, I don't like to see myself on camera when I'm fishing. It's because I just don't like the faces and stuff that I make. You know, where I'm like, I make some weird positions. It's really funny now. You know, like whereas before I didn't care. Now I'm a lot more. You know, I'm like, I don't know about that one. You know, it's not my best foot forward. But it does get cumbersome in the aspect that you're juggling a million things at once. Yeah. And so you can't just but I still enjoy it, you know, but you just don't. It would be nice to be able to go on a trip and just not have to do that, you know, like, or to be able to fish. And that's the good thing about with the, at least with the tournaments, you know, like this season with my bass tournaments too, you know, I'm not, unless we're like completely at a lull for something, you know, you're not breaking out a picture, because it's different for when you're saltwater fishing. Bass, everybody reads everything in the background and they know exactly where you are, and you can't give away anything. You know, they're like, I saw that blade of grass before. I know where you are. You know, right, like, yeah. Oh, I've seen it before. I know that. I know that twig over there. You know, so but yeah, it's still fun. It's always gonna be fun for me. But yeah, I got some cool stuff coming up though.
Yeah, that was my next question. What do you got coming up?
What's on the horizon for Heather Smith Outdoors?
Well, my birthday is March 26th, which is next month, right? And I have probably the coolest birthday that I think I'll ever have in my lifetime. And that's because I'm going to be, there's going to be an episode of Naked and Afraid coming out that I'm on. So,
How was that?
I cannot talk about that. You're going to have to watch and see.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
So you're going to have to watch and see. I will tell you that watching the show and prior to going, that whatever you imagine in your mind that the show is going to be like, you know, just multiply that times 1,000. You know, so it is. Yeah, so you'll have to watch and see. So March 26th on Discovery at 8 p.m. or on Discovery Plus streaming.
Okay.
So,
all right. Good deal.
Yeah,
I can't wait. We're going to get you back going and talk about that after we get done with it. Yeah, that's going to be sweet.
Absolutely. Then I'm fishing bass tournaments here through May. If I qualify, I'm on the championship in June. If we qualify, my partner and I, and it's a team effort, right? And then June 8th through 9th, I think, somewhere around there, I fly out to Big Rock, fishing Kelly Wagner, Big Rock, back with Amy. And then I've got some, fishing all over during the summer. I've got another offshore tournament in Palm Beach for the Pink Ladies for cancer. And then I have a charity tournament in here in November. And I've also got a fall shootout here in November.
Sweet.
And then I think I may be doing the Triple Crown in Texas this year. I was talking to Ben about it, but that's not firm. So I don't want to say that, go hard on that one unless we know that one for sure.
Well,
Cool.
our table's always open. So whenever you get through Biloxi and you want to do a show in the studio, we're here.
Yeah.
Only if you have the cool artwork.
The artwork. What you mean?
All the kids' artwork in the background.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can bring all this right
What are you talking about? What? Yeah. We'll bring the string and hang it up in the
Yeah,
background.
we're hanging in the back of the studio for sure.
It's perfect. Yeah. Well, you guys have been awesome. I truly appreciate you guys having me on here. And I want to thank you guys for what y'all do for the industry and your genuine love for the sport and how kind you are to everyone.
Well,
Yeah,
thank
y'all
you.
for
That
thank
means
you
a
for
lot.
coming on for sure.
Yeah, we appreciate your time and look forward to seeing more of your stuff. So
Yeah. One
thank you.
last question. The
Sure.
Fish for the Girls stuff, is that your apparel or are you starting that line or how did you get in touch with
Fish
that? How
Like
did
a
you get
Girl is
involved with
my
it?
is actually my tagline, and so I
Okay.
have been signed with Real Wicked since the very very beginning, and they believed in me. They're another one of those individuals that believed in me and saw what I was doing before I realized what I was doing. And the whole scope of things. And I always said Fish Like a Girl. And do you remember? I think in the conversation in the beginning when I was told you there were some individuals that were kind of like, they had been. I took what could have been a bad term and I turned it around and shoved it right back.
Yes.
And, and that's why I said, you're right. If I'll fish like a girl, try to keep up. So, and that was it. I try to take anything that's negative and I flip it back around and make it a positive vibe and use what some other people used to say was a bad thing and make it a good thing. That's what America's about, right? We're all about
right.
adapt and overcome. So, you want to give me a challenge, I'm going to take it, and not only am I going to take it, I'm going to come back, leading the pack,
That's right. So where can we
So,
find us at? Where can we find you? Where's the best place to get in touch with you?
you can find me on social media, Heather Smith Outdoors, on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok. You can watch Discovery. You can watch Naked and Afraid on March 26th at 8 p.m. Actually, I looked at the lineup for the people they have for Naked and Afraid for the season, and it seems like they have a lot of amazing people that are on this season. So the new season starts on February 19th. I encourage everyone to watch all of it and see because they've got an MMA fighter. They've got a girl named Survival Lily that's on there. She's got millions of followers. So I encourage everyone to watch all of it. And then you can look at Florida Fisherman Magazine. That'll be in there. And then I'll just be trucking along doing me,
Yeah. What about your gear? Where can we find that at?
Oh, I'm sorry. Real Wicked Apparel. You can go to realwickedapparel.com and the Heather Smith Outdoors collection is there. And that's where you can find the Fish Like a Girl. I've got some fin. I took another one. I have some leggings instead of femme fatale. I use fin fatale, So I try to turn everything around. We've got, and the littles, as we know, my littles go everywhere with me. So we have youth shirts for little girls, and the littles actually designed those shirts.
Sweet.
So they've been designing those shirts for 2 years now. And so the youth shirts are actually fishing shirts for girls by little girls. I think one of the biggest things, just last week they had the Toyota, maybe it was 2 weeks ago, the Toyota series was here. And gentleman that is one of the pro fishermen, Mark Thomas, walks up to me. And I was sitting there eating. And of course, it's just like a waitress, right? When people walk up, it's right when you take the biggest bite of something. And I had just bit into corn because I was having crawfish.
All your teeth.
Right? I'm like trying to get it out. And he walks up and he was like, I'm sorry. He's like, I don't want to interrupt your dinner, but my niece loves you. And if I don't get a picture with you, she's going to not speak to me. And I thought that was like the sweetest thing ever, and quickly I dispatched all the corn in my teeth and then came back and Brylan, I don't want to get that wrong. So thank you. And I appreciate Brylan and I love it. I think it's awesome. I want to see little girls do well. And I want to tell them they're stronger than they ever imagined, and they truly can do anything they ever set their mind to.
Awesome.
What a great way to end it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
So
right,
you have a
Lions
good
guys.
evening. All
You
right.
too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Sweet.
That was a good one. Yeah, that was a good one.
Good one. Yeah.
Yep. We got a lot coming up. Joey, you mentioned we're kind of doing a little bit better about booking guests out further.
We are booked from the boat show. We're booked all the way to mid-April with some serious shows, some good shows. So
people need to stay tuned. We mentioned the Robbie coming on, right?
Yeah, Robbie's going to be on, I think, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, and then we got some Noah people coming on. We got all kinds of people going. We got some UFC fighters coming on. We got Belcher coming on here with Robbie Ellis here in a couple of weeks. So it's going to be a good pool the last end of this month for sure. February, March is going to be good.
Trying to push hard in Q1 of 23. So
that's right.
If you haven't downloaded the app yet, we'd love for you to go check it out. It's on the App Store and Google Play. Just type in Brownwater Banter. It'll come right up. We got a lot of cool things inside of the app that we're doing, like Joey said, with NOAA stuff, the weather, tides, charts. Keep the notifications on if you can. We won't spam on there, but it is a great link, direct way for us to communicate with you outside of all the algorithms. So we'd appreciate that as well. We hope you're digging what we're doing because we're having a blast doing it. And we'll see you on the next one.